And I want to start off with a team that has had way high expectations of the Cavs, but have kind of fallen down a little bit this year. And that's the New York Knicks. I don't know if you've seen it, but they're like really interested in a lot of players. And I wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on Jalen Brunson. Do you think, how would he go? Because they're apparently super keen on him. If they don't work out a trade on the deadline, they're apparently going to offer him $20 million a year for 4 years in free agency. That's what's being reported right now. What do you think?
I think if the New York Knicks can pull that off, that would be a great move. Because from Jalen Brunson part, I've watched a lot of Dallas games, and Jalen Brunson is a starting caliber player, right? And he fluctuates depending on if Luke is healthy, and sometimes he can be off the bench, sometimes he can start. Like I said, based off of if Luka Doncic is playing that game. But if New York can do that, I would try to get him a little cheaper, but honestly, I think that is a contract that makes sense. But if they get Jalen Brunson, I think he would be very, very impactful. The only problem, though, is since Tom Thibodeau likes defensive players, I don't think Jalen Brunson is going to really be that, especially since he's the same height as Kemba. Might be 1 inch taller. So it's going to have its questions, but I do think that would be a great acquisition for New York, though, for sure.
Do you know why I reckon he actually works a little bit better than what Kemba does? Kemba's such like an on-ball guard that I feel like he's a score-first kind of guy. But when it comes to Jalen Brunson, he's averaging like 6 assists per game or something this year. I think it's 5 to 6 with Luka in the team. Clearly can play make pretty well. And he's had experience, I think, playing off-ball with Luka. He doesn't bring that defense, but I don't think he necessarily takes a whole lot of shots away from like RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish, who they want shooting the ball a little bit more. So that's the way I kind of see it. But is this $20 million, is that overpriced for a guy like him? Because we've spoken about this before. There aren't really too many big free agents next year. And one that shows promise like Jalen Brunson could be one that a lot of teams really, really like, if you know what I mean. So in next year's market, is he worth $20 million, or would you, if you're the Knicks, go for a more like a defensive type of guy that can play make, like even Ricky Rubio, or even try and trade for a Malcolm Brogdon? What would be the go, do you reckon, for New York here?
If I had it my way, because if I go off New York Knicks history, they haven't had the best when it comes to paying players like that big money long term. So if I had it in both of best worlds, I would trade for Brogdon. I think Brogdon would be a better long-term fit for the Knicks. The problem with getting Jalen Brunson that money, like I said previous, is when you give a player like that $20 million, the New York Knicks, for some reason, get in a situation where they just cannot afford the player they really wanted because they tied in a player like Jalen Brunson to $20 million. And for the NBA, that's a lot of money for a player like Jalen Brunson. He's a good player, don't get me wrong, but $20 million hurts. Like Dallas right now, they paid Tim Hardaway about that, right? And they're hurting because they can't really make anything shake because his contract is just too big for him to be a role player. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of hard. So for New York, I can see Rubio, but for New York, I think Malcolm Brogdon should be number one priority, then Jalen Brunson, then Rubio.
Yeah. See, I reckon Brogdon really fits their team better than nearly anyone else besides maybe Lonzo Ball. I think Lonzo would have been the guy they should have heavily targeted, like defensive, great playmaker, doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands. He doesn't need to like take shots away from RJ Barrett is what I'm trying to say. But there was the other report going around just saying that the New York Knicks are actually looking to go a lot younger, which is why I don't know if Brogdon works out. And it weirds me out that the Knicks might be going younger. I have this report, if I can, find it, that as well, they're shopping Julius Randle. Did you see that?
I didn't.
There is a report going around. I don't know where it is, but they would be considering trading him eventually. Doesn't that sound like... I don't know why they would do that. Like, do you need to go that much younger? Like, he's only 27 years of age. Toppin's cool and all, but would you trade away Randle? Like, that's the question that I have.
For New York, I know Julius Randle has had his struggles, but personally, I don't think that would be in the best interest of the Knicks.
Yeah.
Reason being because when you do, especially when your team has already tasted the playoffs, this core that you're talking about, trade like Julius Randle, y'all had chemistry making the playoff with this roster, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense trading Ju Randle for a player that may not work chemistry-wise because it just looks bad, right? You trade the player that was the number one option, who was the leader of this team, away for somebody who might not mesh with the roster. Me personally, even though Julius Randle hasn't been consistent this season, I would want to attach a star to Julius Randle and possibly make Ju Randle like a second option, which I think honestly that's where he is in right now. Like, and it's nothing wrong about being a second option. I just think right now he's showing that like that type of pressure is just he can't handle that, right? Like not every player can handle New York media and New York expectations of doing some legitimate damage in the playoffs, you know? And he was, like I said, a good enough player to get New York to a playoff winner. Me included was not expecting New York to get to the playoffs. Yeah. So, me personally, I think I wouldn't trade him. Maybe trade Fournier. And possibly, let's say Kemba to try to track something and use. Now, this might be a time to use y'all picks and y'all salary cap to, attract the talent. But Ju Randle, I would have him untouchable right now. Yeah. Unless y'all get a player like, if you get like De'Aaron Fox, you get a Bradley Beal.
I actually think Fox would be interesting for the Knicks too. If I'm the New York Knicks, I'm just not really trying to trade him at all. Like, because you gotta look at it like this. He might not fit necessarily like the best age gap and this and that. But let's be honest here. The guy brought New York out of where they were. Not just that, he signed a contract extension, which wasn't the max contract. Like, he could have gotten a ridiculous deal, which was like 33 to 37. And I think he's getting 27 million a year. So he possibly saved them around 10 million a season. Yeah. This guy he's not a guy to trade, I don't think. I think you got to keep him, but it begs the question, what's going to happen with Obi Toppin then? Because like he's had a lot of signs where he could be a solid player, but yet again, that guy's like 24 now, 25. Like, he's not as young as what people think, right?
Now, you're right, but that player right there, that's the type of player you use for trade bait.
Obi Toppin.
Yeah, because like you said, like right now, New York has did a good job these past 2 to 3 years establishing a culture again that y'all are committed to y'all players, right? Trading Ju Randle destroys all of that. Past 3 years, right? So what you do, you got Cam Reddish. That was a great trade. He can potentially be a scorer for you guys. But if you want another star, I'm trading Fournier. I'm trading Obi. That's who I was thinking of. And you possibly trade Kemba Walker. Yeah. And try to lower in a star and throw in some picks and try to lower in a star. Because y'all have the assets, y'all have the money, and y'all have the market, right? Which a lot of teams in the league just don't have right now.
Are there too many shot creators on the Knicks though? It's like, if you trade for another star, you're expecting to get a shot creator in, right? And if you look at it like this, they've got Cam Reddish now, RJ Barrett, and Randall, who will all be starting. That's 3 guys that want to shoot the ball. Plus, they've got Kemba now. Kemba's there. They need to get rid of Kemba because, like, bringing in, they already need to get rid of Kemba before they brought in Reddish. Now there's just way too many shot creators on that team. Like, it's ridiculous. A dude like Karl Anthony Towns would actually help out, I reckon, at that center position. I honestly would go and try and get Cat because, like, I think if you want to go deep into the playoffs, I don't think you can have Julius Randle as, like, your best player. But if you had a core of, like, Malcolm Brogdon at the 1, Reddish at the 2, RJ at the 3, or maybe Reddish would go at the 3, who knows, Randall at the 4, and, maybe Cat at the 5, then look, you've got Brogdon who can definitely play off ball. We all know that. And then you've got Cat who, I don't think people realize how lethal is Cat, when he plays off ball as well. Like, Karl Anthony Towns could average 25 a game while playing off ball. He's that good of a shooter. It is ridiculous. I think they should go for him. But I wouldn't mind Brunson. Like, if they couldn't get Brogdon, I wouldn't mind Brunson. But 20 million is a lot of money. Like, a lot of money. The issue I have with the Cavs and Sexton, like, you talked about Hardaway earlier. They're paying Hardaway that much money, and teams don't want to trade for him because his best fit is being a shot creator, I think, off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same with Sexton. Is his best fit as a shot creator off the bench, or could you see him start as a small shooting guard or a dude that guards the one? It's not going to be on the Cavs, right? You just can't guard the one on the Cavs, you know? So it's a big issue. I think Brunson, I still think he'd be good on the Knicks, though. It's tough, though.
Yeah, he would be good on the Knicks, too. And I also want to talk about Cat because you brought it up. Cat would be nice on the Knicks if they had the right point guard. And I think all of the point guards they have are not right for Cat.
Yeah, I agree.
Because like you said, I do think Cat, like, little do people know, Cat offensively is a lot better than a lot of people give him credit for. I know it's because his team has been consistently good. But like you said, Cat offensively is a monster. But the thing about Cat, though, he's the type of player he has to have, like you said, Alonzo, Rubio, Rondo type of point guard. He has to have somebody who's looking to give him the ball, right? Like it's very rare for a center to be able to create his own shot. So and like you said, all the guards they have are shot creators, right? So I think they would have to establish that too. And I think they still haven't established it because they thought Kemba would be the answer. He's not the answer. They was hoping Derrick Rose could be supplement, but he's just not healthy right now. They got Moutier, but I don't know if they're still as high on Moody. I'm not Moody. Quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still as high on Quickly as they was before. So there's a lot of things they have to answer. But right now, I think they play this season out. Like let's assume they don't make a trade during this trade deadline. I think they play it out, see what happens in the off season, and I think they have enough chips to make some move.
Could Brunson be the guy that goes with Cat? Could he be a point guard that you'd look at?
Yeah.
Because he can play make.
Yeah. And the reason, too, because like I said, when Luka's out, like if you see a Dallas game when Luka's out and he starts and he's the primary ball handler and KP's available or one of their backup centers is available, so anyone like a Maxi Kleber or anybody, they get shots. He looks out for them. Honestly, I think he would be forgive me, I think he would be a lower tier Darius Garland to an extent because of his excitement to try to get his team involved, but still has the ability to create his own shot. So
I like that comparison a lot. I actually really can say that. Look, the other thing I have an issue with is people will say, well, Cat and Brunson, they're not defensive guys, right? And they don't fit with Tom Thibodeau's style. But like, if you want to be a successful team, not every guy on your team can be like super defensive. The only team in the league that like I think 100% does that is like the Cavs. Like you look at the Cavaliers, every single guy except for like Kevin Love and even Markkanen can defend the perimeter now. Like every guy plays their defensive part. But on the Knicks, they don't have that foundation. Like if you want that, then maybe you do have to trade Randle away because he's not gonna be as elite as a defender as someone like, you know, Evan Mobley or, you know, even who's another really good like power forward defender. Yeah, even Anthony Davis, right? Then he's never going to be anything like that. And if you're Tom Thibodeau, you're expecting a guy to play really, really good defense, and you're not gonna get that. So maybe it's more of, I think Tom Thibodeau needs to adapt to change his style more than the players need to adapt to fit his, because like you can't. I don't know if you can pass up the opportunity to get Jalen Brunson because like, look, it's a lot of money. But me and you have both seen the potential. This guy could come into the Knicks next year and average, if he starts consistently on 30 plus minutes per game, could average like 18 and 6 or 18 and 7 without being the primary shot creator. He has the capability. He's like, what, 24 now, 25? He's got the capability to do it. And I think you go big or go home with Karl Anthony Towns. Like, he would be amazing on that Knicks team.
Yeah. And it's crazy you say that too, because I agree. Tom Thibodeau, he's going to have to adapt because right now, all the players he has is offensive-minded players. Like Cam, that's having his best. He can play defense, but he's having his best offensive season. With less minutes, RJ Barrett he's an okay defender, but he's more so a streaky offensive player who try to get the shot. Like you said, Julius Randle, Derrick Rose, Kemba Walker, all of those players we've named today are offensive-minded players, right? They're you can argue they're average defenders, but they're not above. They're not Tom Thibodeau level defenders.
Yeah,
you know, like because even when Tom Thibodeau had Derrick Rose in Chicago, the reason it worked because everybody else was defenders, like Luol Deng, he had Joakim Noah, Loser. You know, he had well, not Kirk, but you know, he had
Jimmy Butler when he progressed later on.
So I think, like you said, I think he's in a situation, and even all the names we've named, Jalen Brunson is not a defender. Karl Anthony Towns is not a defender. I've seen your video where you was talking about Don. If they get Don is not a defender.
Wait, who was that? Sorry,
Donovan Mitchell.
Oh yeah. That's crazy that the Knicks are interested in him, dude. That it freaks me out. Like, I'm sure you saw that report where it said that Donovan Mitchell could look at a bigger market team. That pisses me off. I don't think that's happening.